Good morning, folks. Welcome to Last Days Live. Appreciate you joining me this morning. Since our last time together, I built myself some shelves back here. And so I got some Bibles and things out there that I can access more easily. The office is slowly coming together. So very thankful for the internet thing. Oh man, I'll tell you what, that was a really a big deal over the fall. Thank you for your prayers so that we can get this thing happening. Please don't forget, we got at least 3 different live broadcasts that happen every week. On Monday, well, let's start at the first of the week. Sunday morning, Lord's Day Live, starts at 9 o'clock, runs through 10 o'clock. And it's kind of a worship service setting, so if there's little churches, they don't have a preacher, they can use that. A lot of folks using it for various things, homeschooling, the Sunday morning Bible class for their kids. That it's just really versatile. Monday morning at 10 o'clock, we have Monday Morning Live, and it's kind of a silly time, funny stuff, inspirational stories. And then on Fridays, of course, at 11 o'clock, we do this, Last Days Live. So remember the times, 9, 10, and 11. 9 on Sunday, 10 on Monday, 11 on Friday. Here you go. All right, well, today, we need to cover some things. Let's see. What do I suppose first of all, I got to show you. See, there's our official logo thingy dingy. Last Days Live, 11 o'clock. There you go. Should have had that up while I was talking, but you know me, can't get everything straight. All right, let's do a couple current events. Obviously, this week was pretty huge in that we had. Are you guys still out there? Let's see what we got here. Turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. What happened? Am I still live? I can't tell if I'm live anymore. Are y'all still out there? Benita says she's there. Am I still live, Benita? Seemed like it. There it is. I had to look at the thing. I'm sorry, guys. My thing went away, and I thought to myself, that's a problem. But anyhow. What do I got going here? I got too many things happening, don't I? All right, turn that off, 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 turn that off. Oh, I just don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Too fancy. See, I'm not a fancy guy. I'm just kind of a simple fella, and I'm telling you what, there's Heather. Hi, Heather. Hi, Benita. Yes, we're still on. You are on. Thank you. So you saw all of that craziness. Oh, I'm so sorry you have to witness that. Anyhow, here's our first current event. We had a big State of the Union address this week. And of course, if you're on the liberal side, you didn't like it a bit. But if you're on the conservative side, and evidently... Benita says, go get Cindy. Can't. She's at her mom's visiting, so what do I do? But if you're on the conservative side, and even if you're just basically an American, evidently you came out of the room or you came off of watching the TV saying to yourself, that was a good speech. You'll notice the statistics there in the bottom right-hand corner. I guess it's kind of center bottom. Republicans, they approved of the speech by 97%. You would expect that would happen. Democrats only 30%. You would expect that was happening. You know, President Trump could invent the cure for cancer and they wouldn't like it. But independents, that's where it kind of shows up as far as I'm concerned. Independents, 82% of them felt that speech, it resonated with them. It was something powerful. And again, I can't speak for everybody else in the country, obviously, but as a Christian, it seems to me that the statement that you have on the screen before you is one of the most powerful things that you have probably heard come out of the mouth of any president in your lifetime. Can you imagine? We had a president who stood before the world and he said, let us reaffirm a fundamental truth. All children, born and unborn, and of course that hits squarely with the whole, infanticide and abortion and all those kind of things. But then watch this, are made holy, or are made in what? The holy image of God? Holy image of God? This is our president. Now I know he tweets way too much, and I know that he's got a foul mouth, and he had a horrible past in some respects, and I get all of that kind of thing. But I just get so cotton picking weary of the compromising Christians who are out there who would just as soon support a liberal agenda that would allow children to actually die, according to the governor of Virginia, suffocate on once outside the womb because the mother didn't want the child and decides she doesn't want to do anything to resuscitate the child. I tell you what, spiritual snowflakes really bother me. If we're living in the last days, and we are, then it's time for some of these folks, and especially some of these fellas who are filling our pulpits, to grow a backbone. I read a meme yesterday that I thought was rather profound. It says that our president is speaking more passionately about the subject of abortion than many of our preachers in their pulpits. And that's true. How sad it is for some of our snowflake preachers and snowflake Christians and elderships, and on you could go with that. It's time for us to stand up, folks. We are living in the last days, and unless some of us grow a backbone quickly, we're going to lose our country, which is going to cause us to have a horrible, horrible future for our children and our grandchildren. All right, did I preach that sermon passionately enough? I hope I did. Anyhow, there's your first current event, and I really appreciated much of what he had to say. I'm so thankful. Of course, you saw Nancy Pelosi sitting back there, doing all the facial expressions, and the hypocritical clapping and all that kind of thing. And then you had all the women in white robes. How hypocritical is that? Wearing all the white stuff to the State of the Union address in support of bloody hands killing their children before they exit the womb. The hypocrisy on the liberal left, which, by the way, is founded in the Democratic Party, just really gives me the all-overs. Anyhow, let's move on to the next one. All right, take that one down. You put this one up. This fella is a Navy SEAL. Let's see if I can get you his name. Got my stuff here in front of me. Eddie Gallagher. And Gallagher, maybe. He was accused of killing an ISIS soldier on the battlefield who was already wounded and already on his way to death. And he's being accused of that. And it's really been put through the ringer. Honestly, I don't know. And what I'm about to read you comes from his brother. And his brother's name is Sean Gallagher. And what I'm about to read you, I get it. It's slanted. It's kind of from a family standpoint. But I'm not reading it so much to vindicate this fella who I honestly expect, given what he has been through and is very much in, I could read you all the accolades. He's very much a war hero. But I'm reading this from the standpoint of, could this ever happen to you and I as Christians? That the system would jump to conclusions and run us through all kinds of horrible things. Let me just read some of this article, which is powerful, from his brother. But let's skip to the question I typically get after these arguments, which he's just made about his brother. If Eddie is innocent, why not let the process play out? Let your brother prove his innocence and clear his name in a system that works. Seems like a fair question. I thought the same thing, says Sean, but I was wrong. Consider that Eddie was accused, again, with no evidence, just by statements. It was someone's word against his. He's denied everything from the beginning, but denials are not enough to prove a negative. Now remember, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Remember that. Keep that in mind. Yet the Naval Criminal Investigative Services statements are enough to prosecute a decorated American war hero. Last June, they handcuffed and detained Eddie while 15 armed agents raided his home. The only people present were his two sons, one a third grader and the other a senior in high school. The children were marched out onto the street in their underwear with assault rifles pointed in their faces. Sound familiar? No worries. We're told to trust the process. And I could go on and read much more of this particular article. It is in my Facebook feed, by the way, and so just kind of scroll down there and get it and read it for yourself because it's rather shocking. If half of what this brother is saying about his Navy SEAL hero brother, if half of what he is saying is true, it ought to just send off all kinds of alarm bells for you and I. Let me show you some of my concerns with regards to what's happening. Yeah, that's not it. How do you do that? Here it is. There it is. Reasons to be concerned. Number one, hate crimes redefined. If the Democrats take over control of our country, they already were pushing during the Obama administration, but if they take back control of our country, we're going to see hate crimes redefined to encompass things like if you speak out against abortion. You can see how passionate they are about abortion. They're willing to ruin a good man's life. The last Supreme Court justice, ruin his life with innuendos and accusations that were unproven, etc., just so that they can continue the bloody process of killing their children in the womb. And so you see how far they're willing to go with all of that kind of thing. So if they were to define hate crime or speaking out against abortion as a hate crime. Is it possible that preachers could be subjected to the same kind of thing as that you're seeing right here on the screen? Number two, just that little bit that I read to you, and again, I recognize that was written by a brother, and perhaps he's coloring it, but again, if it's true that his home was raided by 15 agents who had semi-automatic weapons, who forced the two boys out onto the street in their underwear, if that's true, imagine where our country is going with this, and what's going to happen in the future if hate crimes would encompass, let's say, homosexuality. And if I get in the pulpit and I speak against homosexuality at my home congregation, they're going to raid my home and force my little boy out onto the street in his underwear while they're searching my house to see if I've got any other kind of sermon notes out there that might encompass hate crimes? Think of where the potential of this. And then lastly, number three, socialism. Socialism just opens the door for this kind of thing. We see what's happening down there in Venezuela, and we've got individuals in supposedly representing us in the government right now who are really pushing towards this whole socialism agenda, and it just opens the door. Again, the more control you give to the government, the less quality of life you're going to have. The more handouts they give, the more demand they're going to make of your freedoms. Big government, mark it down. Big government is bad government. Big government is bad life. It will produce a bad life for you and I. And socialism opens the door for that. There's my two, what do you call them? Current events. We're going to go a little bit of a different direction over the next several weeks during our time together. I'm going to begin sharing with you just little snippets from a seminar that I put together on Islam. Before I go there, however, I've got two books, and I can send both of these books to you via email. All you got to do is send me your email address. Make sure that you request whichever book it is, or if you're wanting both of them, but request them by titles, because I get a lot of folks requesting free information from me, and I want to make sure you get the right stuff. But these are two books. They can come to you by email and print them off, do with them, as you will, as far as reading them and that kind of thing. But I believe that these are the two greatest threats to Christianity today. Inside, I think Calvinism. And we'll deal with that in weeks to come because it so undermines personal responsibility. But before we go there, I think the greatest threat to Christianity from the outside is actually Islam. And we know that we've already sworn in several Muslims using the Quran. And they've begun to supposedly represent us in government. We're already electing them and putting them in positions of power over us. What does Islam actually stand for? What is their value system? And so over the next several weeks, we're actually going to run through some of this little seminar that I put together. It's a 5-part seminar. And I'd be thrilled to come to your congregation, by the way, and present this material if you're interested. But here we go. Here's some information that you may or may not know about Islam. In this first section, we're going to talk about what is the Ishmael prophecy. And first of all, Ishmael and Muhammad. Before I switch that slide, you have to understand that Muhammad was, I don't want to be mean. I'm trying to be I want to be factual in this, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Muhammad couldn't even read and write. In fact, if you get an old Encyclopedia Britannica and you look up the name Muhammad, you'll find that that's what they said in the past. Now that Islam has become politically correct and you're not allowed to talk about them, they've eliminated that. But there's a lot of things to suggest that he couldn't even read or write, meaning that he would learn things literally by just memorizing them, and they would come to him. He was part of the caravans of that region. And as the evening would draw near in one of their long, lengthy trips, they would pull into an oasis area where the other caravanners had parked, and they would go to the central campfire, and they'd listen to all the stories. And at this campfire, there would be many people. There would be Christians who would be represented, and there'd be Jews who would be represented, pagans who would be represented, just all kinds of folks would be at this campfire telling their stories, telling their heritage. And as Muhammad, as a young man, would sit there at the fire, no doubt wide-eyed, he'd hear all of these stories, some of which were from the Jew and from the Christian, which were biblical stories. Well, as he put a lot of things together in his mind, I'm convinced that eventually he decided to try to gain the popularity of some of the warring tribes in his area. Later in life, he's going to marry a rich woman, and this rich woman's going to, because of her riches, going to put him in a powerful position. And so he kind of establishes his own religion. And one of the things he recognizes that in order for him to gain the favor of the Christian or the Jew, he needs to tie into the Bible, the biblical account in some way. And so he decided that he's going to claim that he was the great whatever grandson of Ishmael, that he is a relative of Ishmael, because Ishmael's a biblical character, you see. And so he couldn't claim Isaac because the Jews already got Isaac, right? But he could claim Ishmael, and Ishmael, by the way, was the first son of Abraham, and so that's going to give him instant credibility, right? And so he claims that he was related to Ishmael. By the way, I've never found any evidence to suggest that in my research, but anyhow, that's his claim. My point, however, is if you're going to claim it, then you got to take responsibility for it. And let me just, if I can, let me just share with you. Boom, boom. Here are two passages from the Bible, which he's trying to gain credibility from, that talk about this kid named Ishmael. The prophecies are made. The prophecy in Genesis chapter 16 is actually fulfilled in Genesis chapter 5. But notice these words. Speaking of Ishmael, he will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. And he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. So the prophecy is made that he's going to be a wild donkey of a man. How would you like to have that written as your epitaph on your funeral, your tombstone? You know, there, here lies Sonny Childs, a wild donkey of a man. It was not intended to be a compliment. It was intended to give us factual evidence of the character of this individual. Ishmael, the guy that Muhammad is claiming to be like the ancestor of, was going to be a wild donkey of a man, and he was going to be very violent. He's going to live in hostility toward all his brothers. That's interesting. All his brothers. Did you know that some of the greatest violence today that Muslims perpetrate on other people is actually not perpetrated on the Jew or the Christian? They're more violent to themselves in many cases than they are to either the Jew or the Christian. And so Muhammad claims, I'm going to be the ancestor of Ishmael, probably having no clue what Genesis chapter 16 and verse 12 said about the character of Ishmael. And yet he does live that out, or at least his people do live that out. In Genesis chapter 25, you see that it was already fulfilled as far as Ishmael is concerned. His descendants settled in the area from Havilah to Shur, near the border of Egypt, as you go down toward Asher, and they lived in hostility toward all their brothers. And so the biblical account not only was prophesied, but then fulfilled just a few chapters later. I guess my point is, as we progress through this little seminar, my point is that Muhammad is claiming to be the great whatever of Ishmael. And in the process, I doubt he recognized what he was actually saying. And his people would actually become just like the folks that Ishmael brought onto the planet. And the violence against their brothers and the orneriness, etc. He'll be a wild donkey of a man, and he's going to live in violence. Those are two prophecies about Ishmael, and I suggest to you that Muhammad, if he's going to take responsibility, or he's going to claim credibility from Ishmael, he's going to need to take responsibility for this prophecy, which I think is continuing to be fulfilled even within his people, although I'm not really sure that Muhammad ever really was an ancestor of Ishmael. All right, that's part of it. And let's see if I can go here. Oh yeah. Next time, we will look at Muhammad and Islam, and I'm going to show you a map. I'm going to show you how you can find the ancient city of Babylon, Medina, Mecca, the two holy cities of Islam, etc. We'll show that next time. But you see the little yellow circle there? Can I present this seminar to your congregation? Send me an email. Send me a text message or a private message, or put a message right here telling me that you want more information. I'd be happy to talk with you about that and how we can come and arrange a seminar. It can be presented as a revival. I've done that on many occasions, or it can be presented as a seminar. Either way, and it's been very effective. I've done it from California to the East Coast. I've done it all across the country, and be happy to come and to share it with your congregation as well. What do we got left? Meme of the week. Meme of the week. I almost put up another one, but I saw this one yesterday, and I thought, ooh. Before I discuss it, let me show you. There's no credit given to who drew this, and that bothers me, guys. If you're going to put something on Facebook And if it has that little, signature at the bottom, make sure that you don't edit that out. Don't crop that out. Whoever drew this deserves to have credit. And I spent some time this morning on line trying to figure out who it was that did this, and I couldn't find it. If you know, let me know, and I'll give credit in the future. But if you're going to put stuff out there, I know my stuff that I make as far as memes and that kind of thing, I don't mind you sharing those. What I want, though, is, give credit, because it's important that they be able to trace this back to whoever originally put it out there. Now, to the meme. You got Planned Parenthood on the left, and given some of the things that we are seeing coming out of Virginia and the White House, New York State, etc., it's not going to be long until that second sign is going to be very accurate. If we are not going to give a voice to the most vulnerable of our culture, the child in the womb, then what happens when grandpa becomes a problem? And grandma, we got all this Alzheimer's that's going on and your dementia and things, and honestly, I could live a whole lot better if grandpa just wasn't around, if grandma wasn't here. And we're filling up our nursing homes with those folks, just kind of pushing them over there because we got other things that need to happen. And sometimes it's true that we just simply can't take care of their needs. I get that. But a lot of folks that are in nursing homes today are there just simply because family doesn't care enough to take care of them. But what if you could just eliminate them altogether? Then you wouldn't even have the expense of the nursing home. You see how easy it's going to be for us to slip down that slippery slope? I am really, really concerned because family values are just in the tank in America today. And I'm concerned that this could be the next thing on the horizon. We need to be prayerful that God will give us a wake-up call. Oh, yeah, the bug-out bag. We always do the bug-out. I got a problem. My wife has gone to be with her mother. She does that every Thursday or Friday, and they're probably going to do some sewing. They like to put puzzles together and all that kind of thing. And my father-in-law, Carlton, he's probably going to sit there in his chair and wish that somebody would come and relieve him of all that women's stuff going on. But he's a good man. Elder of the church, love Carlton a lot. But she's over there with her mom. And here's the point. What's it have to do with anything? She took my bug-out bag in her trunk. It's over there. I don't have my bug-out bag, so I can't show you my bug-out bag. Now, you've seen it before. You know what it looks like. I sent one off to my buddy Tony. He sent me a note just yesterday thanking me for his bug-out bag. Remember, he's the one who shared with me that book that we'll probably talk more about in the future. And I'm going to give a bug-out bag to anybody who can give me some really good, challenging information about some of these presentations that I'm making, or other information for that matter, with regards to the last days. And so, bug-out bag. I don't have anything to show you, but I'll tell you, remember, the one thing I've got in my bug-out bag, always carry in your bug-out bag your Bible. Bible in the bug-out bag. I need to have your Bible. All right, there's that one. We did that. Is that it? No. There's got to be something else here, isn't there? Bug-out bag. There it is. Last thing we deal with on Last Days Live, the chin up. You're going to get tired of hearing this, but I am convinced that these are the four most important things you can do during these last days to protect your family and to protect yourself. Remember, we need to constantly keep our eyes on the skies, waiting for Jesus. He makes a sad statement at one point. He says, when the Son of Man returns, will there be faith on the earth? I suppose it has to indicate the implication that maybe there will be a time where there will be no faith on the earth, and how tragic that would be. I don't want to be that person, and I don't want to live during that time period, do you? In order for us to keep the faith, in order for us to be survival till arrival, in order for that to happen, we got to see and chin in the word chin. Keep your chin up. Look to the sky. Chin. You need to keep your family close. H. You need to get you a full-time homemaker. You need to get you a full-time home protector. It's becoming more and more necessary that we have these people that, these women specifically, Titus chapter 2, Genesis chapter 3, who are warriors at home, who are making sure there's a safe place for our children to retreat to, and the husbands to come home to. Cannot emphasize enough how important that woman is. Invest in the future. We need to make sure that we're talking a lot about heaven, and our children are thinking about heaven and recognizing that persecution is likely to come their way one day. But if they're rock solid in their investment in heaven, it'll be okay. It'll be all right. And then N is for notice. Mark chapter 13. You need to notice the context Look at the world around you. Watch the news. Recognize what's happening. Don't be a dummy. Remember, Jesus made prophecies about how that there's going to be a time when Jerusalem would fall. And I'm told that years later, Josephus actually records that many Christians actually escaped the fall of Jerusalem because they headed to the mountains recognizing the signs of the times, and they recognized that they needed to get out of Dodge, as it were. You need to be noticing. Take full advantage of all of the information that you have about you, including what we do every Friday, and be aware of where we're at, and keep your family protected. Well, there you go. Last Days Live. I hope it's been beneficial to you. Go to my Facebook thingy ding. Let me get that on there. Go to my Facebook and see that article about this Navy SEAL. Really disturbing. And is it coming to your house? I hope it doesn't. But if the world continues to go as it is, and if the Democrats get control of much of our governmental system, you can be threatened by it. And I feel very, very confident. So, all right. I guess I've done enough. I need to go. Last Days Live. Thank you for being with me. I love you, and I pray God's blessing on you. Be there. Matthew 16:26.